Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your trusted weather source here, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype. Here on your Friday, June 13th, 2025. Well, you made it to the weekend. Obviously, you'd like to know what's in store, so we're going to take a breakdown, detailed look at your weekend forecast and show you who may be getting some wet weather and who may not. We're also going to be talking about the evolving weather pattern that we're expecting later this month. That includes the potential heat dome and maybe heat wave across the country. We'll take a look at the latest drought conditions kind of in advance of this potential heat wave. And they'll also talk about the changing storm track, which means where is the thunderstorm threat going to fall? Where's the severe weather threat going to fall? We'll talk about that as well. Also, we got an update on your tropics as well, so we got plenty to get into for this edition. Now, before we get there, first, I do want to say thank you to any new subscribers out there. And if you haven't subscribed just yet, please help us get closer to 10,000. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you appreciate this update, please leave me a comment down below, give me a thumbs up. It does help out with the almighty YouTube algorithm. All right, we got plenty to get into, so let's get started. Let's first go ahead and begin this report with a quick look out at the tropics, as we do have our fourth tropical depression of the season there in the eastern Pacific. You can see that big cluster of showers and thunderstorms here off the Mexican coastline here. Looks like this is going to continue to move off in a westerly direction and shouldn't have any impact on land. In fact, not really expected to become a big storm. It will become Delilah, should be forming that later today, and stay as a tropical storm as it continues to move out into the eastern Pacific. Now, as far as what's expected in the Atlantic right now, looking all quiet over the next 7 days. And as we go and look at the satellite imagery out there, things remain fairly quiet out there. Got a decent tropical wave here coming off the African coastline, although it's still a bit far south. And we still have a pretty decent a plume of dust out here as well. So that'll continue to be a bit of an inhibitor for any additional tropical development. But things are all quiet in the Atlantic side. Now, the one map I'm going to be watching very closely as we go through the summer months is going to be the drought index map. This was actually updated here yesterday, and you can see really half the nation really not looking bad. I mean, you got this half here that's just not seeing anything, looking pretty good here in the east, but still dealing with some decent drought here across the southwest and parts of South Texas. Now, we're going to see this kind of trim back a little bit after that recent heavy rains down there in South Texas, especially yesterday, the day before. So that'll show some improvement. But with this building heat dome anticipated, we're going to start seeing this color up and light up a little bit more, especially go later in the month of June and going into July. Now, in the meantime, we're going to have to deal with some heavy rain, and the excessive rain forecast is reflecting this here for today. You see these yellow pockets here across portions of Illinois, Arkansas, Mississippi, and into Tennessee, even here across Virginia and parts of the mid-Atlantic. So you got these little pockets of some heavy rains, obviously with these clusters of thunderstorms that'll continue to be a bit of a problem here for today and really kind of track through the weekend. So let's go ahead and talk about that. We'll look at your Saturday outlook here. Again, the two hot zones we're going to watch there is in the plains, Kansas and Oklahoma, and again over here into Virginia, and some storms up here across Minnesota, South Dakota, and Iowa, and stretching back to the southeast for your Saturday. How about your Sunday? How's that looking? Is it looking wet too? Well, a little bit of a snaky pattern here. Look at this, from Montana coming all the way through the plains and stretching into the southeast, and a little cluster there about across Virginia once again, going into your Sunday. And heading into early next week, Monday, starts to back up just a little bit. You see a couple pockets there again. The mid-Atlantic still looking a bit on the wet side once again, still seeing that right there, and then up across the high plains. And finally going into your Tuesday, day 5 outlook. How's that looking? Let's take a look. Well, I got a little pocket there showing a slight risk there across Minnesota and into Iowa as we go into Tuesday of next week. So let's go ahead and take a look at the latest from the Storm Prediction Center as far as what you can anticipate here for the weekend. Now, do keep in mind as we're dealing with the summertime, these can fluctuate and change from day to day and really from hour to hour. So just watch out for those changes. Now, what we're seeing right now here for today is slight risk here across portions of heading in toward South Dakota, Nebraska, a little bit of Colorado there, but you see the marginal risk kind of going there. A general thunderstorm threat here all across the southeast expected here on your Friday. Let's go through your day 2 and look at that. A little bigger area here of slight risk here going from Montana, stretching back into Nebraska and coming into Colorado and coming into Kansas as well as into North Texas. That's going into your Saturday. And then finally going into day 3, just a general thunderstorm threat here, really kind of coming out of the foothills of the Rockies, coming out into the plains from South Dakota, down in through Kansas, into Oklahoma, and down through Texas as we go into your Sunday. So let's go back to day one. We'll go ahead and break down the categorical breakdown for today. Very small tornado risk there in the green. That's kind of coming out of Wyoming and into Nebraska, coming into this area here, Torrington, Scotts Bluff, Rushville, small towns, little things out here in the little part of the Plains states. Let's look at the wind threat here for today. Obviously a little bit higher. Obviously coming out of Minneapolis and coming in through Iowa and coming in through portions of South Dakota, Nebraska, and stretching here on the foothills of the Rockies through Colorado and down toward New Mexico. You're seeing that's running about 5% into that zone. And then finally, your hail threat will be generally in the same location where that slight risk is here, coming from South Dakota and stretching back in here through the northern portions of Nebraska. So checking out the latest surface map here across the nation, we're definitely seeing some wet and rainy conditions out there for your Friday here across the high plains and parts of the Great Lakes, and got this upper level disturbance here in the middle of the country from Missouri, stretching rains down all the way to the Gulf Coast. A little rainy out here in Montana, a little system out here in the areas up toward Idaho as well. So definitely got some wet and rainy conditions here that's going to be inundating some parts of the nation as we continue through the weekend. Now, as we look at our satellite picture, you can see where the thunderstorms are flaring up there, showing up very nicely here on the GOES 19 satellite. You're seeing the thunderstorms here across Louisiana, parts of Oklahoma seeing some storms as well. And we'll see some additional storms with that daytime heating firing up here for later today. So let's go ahead and break down the model analysis here as we've got to look at the high resolution model here on the NAM. We're looking at the NAM 3K here version here as we kind of track what's going on here through the weekend, taking you right into your Sunday afternoon. So let's go ahead and pause this real quick, as again we'll be watching a couple of clusters of storms here throughout this morning and going into this afternoon. This one up here, this one up here, and then obviously we'll get some daytime heating with some more storms down here across the southeast that'll form up here for tonight. But you clearly can see the spin here as I go take this forward here of that little disturbance there across areas of heading up toward the Midwest and going in toward Indiana and in through Kentucky. So that little swirl there is going to bring that unsettled weather through portions of Tennessee and Mississippi. And you see the rain there across the Great Lakes as well. So definitely going to be a bit wet and rainy here across portions of the southeast with that disturbance there. And that'll continue into Saturday as well. So look at that toward the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Look at some stormy weather there going into Saturday morning there. Looking pretty wet here. This is 8 o'clock Saturday morning. Look at a lot of the Northeast here, a little bit on the wet side here across Wisconsin as well. Not too bad here across the South, and the West, of course, is staying dry out here for right now as the pattern is keeping them under the dry conditions right now. As we go through the rest of the weekend, Saturday afternoon, again, we'll watch the air mass thunderstorms kind of erupt here as we go into the late afternoon, evening hours here all across the Southeast. Again, some will hit it, some will not. And of course, got a little front here across portions of Wisconsin and Iowa, setting off some storms there as well on your Saturday afternoon. And we continue through the rest of your Saturday. Still see that swirl there, just kind of sitting there. Looks like another little cluster of storms here far up here into Sunday morning here, coming into portions of Oklahoma. So we have to track that little disturbance as well throughout the day on your Sunday as that swings on down to the south into North Texas and into Arkansas. Now, as far as the rainy hot spots are concerned, obviously we're seeing where the heavy rains across portions of Minnesota into Wisconsin with the cluster of storms up there, Oklahoma, and through across the southeast. Again, that disturbance is going to be really slow to kind of meander on out of here. But look at all the rain in here. I mean, you're looking at localized levels between 1 to 2 inches for the most part. But then you'll have some hot spots, like, for example, here in Oklahoma, showing up to 5 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, looking at 4 inches there. So most part 1 to 2 with some of those thunderstorms, but you may have a few more that'll give you some gully washes there. That'll be a little bit more. You see the rains here coming through portions of Ohio into Pennsylvania. Northeast, not bad. Looks like generally about a 1/4 inch up that way, not too bad. And then you see the higher rain chance with thunderstorms here across Minnesota into Wisconsin. And hey, don't forget our friends back here in Montana. They're getting some pretty good thunderstorms up here as well. Look at it, some 2 inches, 1 inches up here into Montana with some rains up here as well. A little wet weather across the northwest, but not a lot. But again, a lot of the southwest staying on the dry side. Let's go ahead and look at your temperatures here. I got this looping for you. One thing I want to show you here over the next couple of days is notice the purple really starts to expand, okay? That's going to be kind of a growing theme as we go deeper into the month of June, especially if we get that big heat dome that's advertised here. One thing we're going to see is because of what we're seeing with the clouds and rains, a lot of the east here is not going to stay that overly hot, but obviously the southwest, Texas is going to be seeing a lot of purple there. You see it on the foothills in the plains, but the northeast not looking bad. The high plains looking not bad here as well because of the cloud cover. Southeast not overly hot by southeast standards because of the clouds and rain threat there. I'll see in the 90s kind of right there into Florida here going into the weekend. So again, not overly hot for the weekend, but as we go toward the following weekend, This map is going to look a little bit different. I think we may see a lot more purple on here as we go toward it next weekend. Now let's go ahead and talk about the overall jet stream pattern. I got this looping right now. This is the jet stream about 30,000 feet. So what we're going to see is a shifting jet stream pattern. Remember what I said? I said we're going to see the storm track change. So areas that are going to get the thunderstorms are going to be up along the northern tier. The northwest kind of dropping down here into the plains. This little disturbance here coming out toward the end of the week, I'll watch. But you're seeing this ridging taking place in here across the south. So that with this big ridging taking place, especially toward the end of this run, it's really going to mean the severe weather is going to shift here coming out of the Rockies into the high plain states and probably into the Midwest and into the Northeast. So that's probably what we're looking at. That's pretty typical as we go into the end of June. Now, as we look at the height anomaly here as well, let me go and get this looping as well. Again, watching where the heat dome is going to set up. That's that orange. That's high pressure. The blues, that is low pressure. That's your storm systems there. So again, you kind of get an idea of where this thing's going to be kind of setting up here as we go for the next couple of weeks. And the European model's been very consistent, showing this ridging taking place. We got these little weak disturbances. Yeah, again, one of these, like for example, the 18th. This might bring some severe weather up this way. These little disturbances that'll kick it back from time to time. But overall, you keep seeing this ridging. There it is going back toward the 21st. We got a good storm system out here on the West Coast going into Saturday, the 21st, of kind of going into the first day of summer. But that ridging shifts to the east and then goes back to the middle of the country again. And with that heat dome setting up in there, that's going to mean some very hot weather there as we head into the last week in June if these models continue to verify this. We still get these little unsettled weather for the Pacific Northwest, but it looks like above normal temperatures for a big part of the country here as we go toward the end of the month and go into that first full week of summer. Now, as far as what we're going to see precipitation-wise here for this weekend, let's go ahead and take a look at that as we're going to be dealing with some unsettled weather here for the weekend. So just make sure you plan accordingly. You're going to see these things pop up. You're going to see, obviously, the air mass thunderstorms that are going to be there, and you're going to have to plan accordingly. The late day showers and thunderstorms are going to be the big thing you're going to have to watch there. Let me turn my timestamp back on here. I forgot to turn that back on for you there. So again, we're going to watch this here through the weekend. So let's go and take a look at this. Again, the eastern part of the United States this afternoon. Look at all the showers and thunderstorms here with that through the plains. That's what the NAM was showing. European is showing that as well. And as we go in through your Saturday, again, Saturday afternoon, again, Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, the plains seeing some activity here as well. Going into your Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, again, looking at the Southeast once again with thunderstorms. Plains seeing a few more hefty thunderstorms out here as well, so we'll have to watch that closely going into your Sunday. How about your Monday afternoon? Let's take a look at Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Looks like the middle of the country, still looking at unsettled weather here across the Southeast. The Southeast should begin seeing a bit of a drying trend toward the end of next week, but still running relatively high with the rain chances here. Pretty good cluster of storms here going into Tuesday. You're going to watch this for some severe weather here across Nebraska and Kansas showing up here. Some scattered storms across the Midwest and into the Southeast once again. But this could be severe, folks. Watch out for this going into Tuesday if the European verifies out. Let's go into your Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. Again, pretty good thunderstorms here. Again, the severe weather potential shifting up here toward the north. Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, coming into Missouri, Oklahoma. So this will be a hot zone to watch toward the middle of next week. Again, we showed that little weakness that was kind of coming out over the top of that ridge there going into the middle of next week. So that'll be Tuesday and Wednesday will be an active severe weather day, it looks like, going into next week. And how about going into your Thursday? Again, this shifts off toward the east, so a pretty good storm system here. And we'll have to watch for severe weather here from heading up from the east coast down into the southeast going into your Thursday afternoon of next week. And then this shifts on off the eastern seaboard, and we'll see things begin to improve there, except still looking at unsettled wet weather for the Northeast. And it looks like a lot of the nation going into Friday cools off, although we got a pretty good trough coming here. I see the 540 line. That's a nice little cool down coming into the Pacific Northwest toward the end of next week. So what's going to happen is we got trough out here in the west. We're going to see some big ridging here in the middle of the country as we go toward the first full day of summer. And that means the heat's going to be there. The Northeast will have a brief cool down in it. So you got cool weather here, and it's just going to be plain old hot here in the middle of the country going toward the end of next week. Rainfall totals, well, we're going to continue this over the next 7 days. We're looking like we're going to continue to stay a bit on the unsettled side here. Again, the high plains is going to be where the highest rain chances are going to be into this zone as well. So again, that's where we're going to see the high rain chances here across Iowa, Nebraska, coming into areas of Minnesota. And then decent, look at the air mass thunderstorms here. I mean, 1 to 2 inches. I think that's pretty much the average here through the weekend here. And I want to take this out to the end of the 7 day here, just so you got an idea. So their next 7 days, this is where the wet weather is going to be. Dry out here in the west. It's staying kind of wet here in the east. So the precipitation, at least up until the 20th, still looks decent, above normal the precipitation chances. But beyond the 7-day, once we get into that heat dome starting to fill, I think that really starts to back off here as we go in toward the last week of going into June. So let's look at your climate outlook here. Again, looking at the latest here. Look at a lot of the country. Wow, just lit up. You see a lot of that orange on the map, except for areas there in the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, we got that trough coming in out there. I saw the 540 line off the coast there, so that's a freezing line. So to see that, it's going to be kind of cold and unsettled there across the areas of the Northwest. This is for June 18th through the 22nd. Going out from the 20th to the 26th, again, continuing with a warm pattern across a big part of the country, except for the Pacific Northwest. That's going to hold true continuing through this zone in here, going out for the last week, heading into the last week of December, and the first, really kind of getting into the first full week of summer. Now, as far as precipitation, this looks like we stay dry in the west. That's true. Kind of looking green there in the east. That holds true here from the 18th to the 22nd. But I think we're going to see a little more of that brown really start to take shape here. You notice that we're trimming away more and more of that green. And I really think as the days progress here, day by day, and the Climate Prediction Center comes out with these outlooks, I think we're going to see a lot more brown on this map as we go and finish off the month of June, just based off the latest European long-range outlook here. So I expect to see drier conditions and spreading drought conditions if that ridge holds true and continues going into the month of July. All right, that's going to do it for this edition here for your Weather Daily. Again, if you like what you see with this report and you'd like to make this part of your regular YouTube feed, go ahead and do me the pleasure and the honor, if you could, and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you're alerted when these updates are given. So looks like we're in store for some stormy days ahead for the weekend, maybe a little more severe weather till the middle of next week. And then, of course, we're going to be watching very closely to see if we're going to get an actual heat dome and heat wave to form here in the country as we wrap up the month of June. All right, that is your update. You guys take it easy. Have a great, safe weekend, everybody. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.